At the time of the bris milah, which is commanded from the Torah, that on the 8th day you will maul the child. The bris now is a covenant that we're entering. We're saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that man is involved with the perfection of the creation. That's the essence of bris milah. God could have created it perfectly. He did with Adam Arishon. He created us perfectly. But when it comes now to the generation where we are, Hashem creates us, we're lacking something. That something of the bris milah is indicative or symbolic of a man having to do the tikkun to fix the world himself. He wasn't given a perfect world like Adam. He was given a world with impediments. He was given a world with tests and trials. The removal of doing the bris, of entering a young man to the bris like Hashem commands, is saying that we human beings have the physical responsibility to remove that final impediment, to perfect ourselves. It's not a given. We have a job to do. And the bris is one of the indicators of this. And by removing the outer skin, what we call the aura, which is the heavier, more physical skin, and then removing the fine skin, we're symbolically testifying that we're entering this child into the covenant to do the battle, to fight the war that's to be fought in this world, to overcome the physical nature of the human being. Not to not use it, it's to be used for spiritual matters, but to overcome being pulled down and being guided and directed by it and forgetting about the spiritual gift we've been given. And that's what bris milah really is removing those barriers to allow us to get in touch with our higher selves, with our spiritual selves, and do the necessary work to purify ourselves and the world around us, that we must make the fixing in the world. It's not given to us anymore. We're the ones who are responsible.
Circumcision is the end result of a ritual conducted by Abraham in order to bind humanity to the will of Yahweh. The name of this ritual is the Covenant of Pieces. The Covenant of Pieces was the end result of Yahweh's grooming of Abraham to be his perfect servant. Abraham, desperate for power, took a sharp rock and cut off his own foreskin before instructing all of the males in his cult to do the same. Mass sexual trauma at the command of a divine dictator. The covenant began with a physical act of circumcision, but the covenant is not limited to the cutting of the foreskin. In order to understand circumcision and how to reverse it through yoga, you have to first understand the esoteric significance of circumcision. The esoteric purpose of circumcision is the damaging of the individual's relationship to the Muladhara. The Muladhara is the chakra that is associated with physical expression of sexuality. It is a seat of consciousness that is directly related to the genitals. The goal of Abrahamism is to ensnare the entire world in the binding of a pyramidal power structure that begins and ends with the unknowable God. This God is unknowable because this God is a conceptual stand-in for nothingness. All roads of Abrahamism lead to nothing. In yoga, the access point of the void is the Sahasrara. The Sahasrara is the opposing chakra to the Muladhara. It is in the Muladhara that we establish the physical borders that designate selfness in the material world. It is also through the Muladhara that we express form and begin the process of achieving meaning in our individual lives. In Abrahamism, any source of meaning outside of the cult is a threat to the power of the cult. Therefore, the Muladhara must be directly attacked and destroyed in order to undermine any attempt by the individual to establish and maintain their sovereignty. This occurs at an individual and national level. Borders of any type are only acceptable if they serve to empower the cult. In ritual terms, exoteric circumcision is the physical destruction of the border of the Muladhara. This is the destruction of any foreskin, the kicking down of any doors, and the tearing down of any fences that might be a barrier to the advancement of the Abrahamic cult. The esoteric circumcision is the destruction of any idea, the demonization of any god, and the denial of any unifying principle that might be a barrier to the advancement of the Abrahamic cult. We are living in the Kali Yuga. In this age, the physical expression of consciousness is the most obvious to us. Physical circumcision is an incredibly destructive act because it targets the foundation of consciousness in the present age. It is an ungrounding action that creates immediate conflict and disconnection with the divine feminine principle of Shakti. In the body, there are certain energy centers that we call nadis. The foreskin is a nadi. It is a point where energy flows. When this point is removed from the body, there is a disruption in the flow of energy. Removal of the foreskin greatly reduces the physical sensation that a male experiences during sex. Any pleasure that may be naturally accessed in the act of physical sex is therefore reduced due to the absence of the foreskin. This sets the stage for compulsive male sexuality. The man, lacking the natural sensation of the foreskin, experiences an internal dissatisfaction that is never properly explained to them due to the social taboos and outright censorship surrounding the discussion of sex and Jewish ritual. Instead of being given an explanation of their dissatisfaction and a pathway towards healing, the circumcised male is offered false solutions that serve the advancement of the Abrahamic cult. One solution is the embrace of the myth of naturally compulsive male sexuality. This myth states that men have a naturally higher sex drive than women, and must express this naturally higher drive by seeking many sexual partners to achieve satisfaction of their urges. In the infancy of the Abrahamic cult, this myth helped to promote a conquering attitude in the Israelites and their servants, as well as a desire to have a lot of sex and impregnate as many women as possible. This was coupled with the binding of female sexuality through oppressive social standards that have been perpetuated in conservative culture to this very day. The male is physically bound to the act of sex, and the female is conceptually bound to the condition of chastity. The other false solution is the abandoning of sexual pleasure as a goal of the male experience. Semen retention and the rejection of all sexual expression, including masturbation, is sold as the ultimate form of self-empowerment. At the same time, women are fed empowerment propaganda in the form of promiscuity. Women are told to liberate their condition by becoming sexually compulsive like the Abrahamic man. In this arrangement, the man is conceptually bound to chastity and the woman is physically bound to sex. The aforementioned false solutions are prime examples of the checkerboard strategy of Abrahamic magic. Offer a black square and a white square where the pawns may move with the illusion of choice without ever escaping the board. In the examples given, either the male or female must be made chaste or promiscuous. Why is this? Because chastity prevents the spreading of divine union between human men and women. In the absence of chastity, prana flows circularly through the nadis of human society. The sexual energy spins, generating shared power of the deified man and woman. If chastity can be established, the union can be shifted towards God, with man, woman, or both placing God before all others in their sex life. Under ideal circumstances, maximum frustration in the divide and conquer strategy may be achieved by promoting promiscuity in one sex while selling chastity to the other. This breeds a battle of the sexes that distracts humanity from the true source of their suffering. Promiscuity will eventually lead to the organic expression of discrimination in sexual expression if humanity is able to approach sex without shame or taboo. This is the Aryan ideal of free love. Free love is not about a lack of discernment, but is in fact the revolutionary idea that men and women should be able to determine what they enjoy in sex without socio-religious intervention. It is the enforcement of taboo that breeds contempt and preserves the Abrahamic power structure. This principle is applied not only in the physical act of sex, but also in the manipulation of borders throughout society. For example, one political party will be sold the idea of strong borders to keep the nation chaste, while another party will be sold the promiscuity of open borders. Man is not afforded the right to freely choose his neighbors, and conflict is therefore generated between homelander and immigrant. Once again, the true source of suffering is not identified, and both parties remain on the checkerboard. Modern man is terrified to abandon his dogma because it means recognizing that he has suffered severe damage to his most private area. He has been told to obsess over the quality of this area while also rejecting its divinity. The social myth of the beautiful circumcised penis in contrast to the barbaric uncircumcised penis. The social myth of the chaste and lipless vagina in contrast to the so-called roasted vagina of the promiscuous woman, a condition, by the way, that has no basis in material reality. If you are not aware of this recent phenomenon, women are having their labia minora mutilated in the search for a vagina that looks more chaste and clean. You can see how the fear injection has created neurosis surrounding the genitalia, a neurosis that Freud began to identify in his analysis of problems like castration anxiety and penis envy. While on the subject of Freud, it is important to recognize that the problem of Abrahamism and its treatment of sexuality is not a problem confined to the Jewish race. The Abrahamic condition can be understood as a specific brand of samsara. There is always a ruling order of samsara, a mass culture that is a reflection of the samsaric condition. Presently, samsara is driven by Abrahamism, but someday it will be replaced by a different culture. Don't be fooled by names. If you are under the spell of circumcision, you are part of the Abrahamic covenant. Your race, political ideology, and religious affiliation won't save you. You have to reconcile the damage that has been done to your Muladhara if you want to escape the present brand of samsara. The truth is, Freud did more to repair his own karma with the Muladhara than most so-called anti-Abrahamists. If you want to begin to repair the damage of circumcision, you must begin with an honest examination of your relationship to your genitalia. What command does this relationship have on you? How is it influencing your life? This is an act of meditation on the Muladhara, one that most people never experience, because it is hard to look honestly at this part of the self, but it is necessary if we seek liberation from samsara. Once you have conducted this analysis, begin to identify the source of all belief surrounding your genitalia. Be critical. Extend this examination to psychic projections of the genitals in the external world. Do you carry a big gun because you truly enjoy firearms? Or are you trying to compensate for a lack of sensation in your circumcised penis? Are you joining the army because you want to defend your country? Or are you still angry that your own mother and father allowed your foreskin to be forcefully torn from you by a stranger? Once you have thoroughly unpackaged the damage that has been done, realize that you are more than your physical body. Man and woman both have a subtle body that preserves its form even in the absence of a physical component. This is why an amputee will experience phantom pain in the area where they once possessed a physical leg or arm. The subtle body can be honed through meditation. The subtle foreskin is no different. Bring your awareness to it, and the sensation will begin to return to your penis. Does your country lack a physical border? Bring your awareness to the subtle border. Are you currently sitting in a prison cell? Pick up the subtle key and walk out the door. This is where liberation is accessed, in the subtle body, the thing that cannot be destroyed or taken from you. As Christ said, "My kingdom is not of this world." Yeah, well, neither was his foreskin.